Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. According to UPI, Russia was targeted by one of the largest Ukrainian drone attacks in 2 years, with Ukraine launching over 550 drones at Moscow and other Russian regions. Russia's state media reported that 555 drones were downed or intercepted during the early Thursday morning raid. In the capital, the Moscow oil refinery in Kapotnya was struck for the second time this week, sparking fires and explosions. The attack also caused significant damage to a shopping mall, a fitness center, and an industrial facility in the southeastern suburbs of Moscow, while residential buildings in Zhukovsky were damaged, prompting evacuations. One woman was injured in Spelmanovo village when the roof of her house was damaged by falling debris. Additionally, flight operations at Moscow's 4 major airports were temporarily suspended for safety. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky justified the operations as long-range sanctions, describing them as a fair response to Russia's deadly airborne assaults on Ukrainian cities, including a Monday strike that killed 11 people in Kyiv. Zelensky thanked Ukraine's military and security services for the precision and effectiveness of the strikes. According to CBS News, traffic in the strategic Strait of Hormuz has begun to increase after U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian signed a Pakistan-mediated Memorandum of Understanding. The agreement, aimed at ending the conflict, calls for the immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran and the lifting of the U.S. naval blockade. Following the signing, at least 10 commercial vessels were tracked transiting the vital waterway on Thursday morning, although shipping levels remained significantly below pre-war averages. Despite this diplomatic breakthrough, major challenges persist. The peace agreement calls for an immediate and permanent end to military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. However, Israel's military announced that its forces deployed in southern Lebanon will remain in the security zone to continue removing threats. Israeli officials are reportedly negotiating with the U.S. to allow their troops to stay, a presence that Iran has warned would violate the deal. Meanwhile, parallel fighting has continued, with the Israeli military reporting 1 soldier killed and 7 wounded in southern Lebanon just before the deal's immediate effect was announced. According to a DW report, Polish authorities have arrested a 36-year-old suspect carrying a Georgian passport in connection with the fatal shooting of exiled Russian artist and Kremlin critic Semyon Skrepetsky. The victim, whose real name was Robert Kuzovkov, was shot 5 times earlier this week in the eastern Polish town of Biała Podlaska, near the border with Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced that the arrest was coordinated by the local police and the Internal Security Agency. Tusk described the assassination as a political murder and stated that investigators are currently working to identify the mastermind behind the attack. Skrepetsky, who had lived in exile in Poland since 2021, was well known for his sharp caricatures of Russian President Vladimir Putin, Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko, and Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. Just 3 days before his death, he had staged a protest outside the Russian embassy in Berlin. Polish officials noted that Chechen involvement is also being considered as a possibility. The Kremlin has historically denied involvement in the deaths of prominent dissidents in Western nations. According to Jaiji Press, G7 leaders gathered in Evian, France, have welcomed a shift by U.S. President Donald Trump toward a tougher stance against Russia over the war in Ukraine. During the 3-day summit, Trump demonstrated newfound unity with other G7 nations, supporting increased pressure on Moscow and agreeing to ramp up sanctions targeting Russian fossil fuel revenues. French President Emmanuel Macron and other leaders praised Trump's recognition that Russia shows no genuine willingness to discuss peace. Additionally, the G7 agreed to grant licenses for Ukraine-based companies to manufacture long-range missiles and air defense systems. Beyond Ukraine, the summit saw a major breakthrough in the Middle East, with President Trump signing a memorandum of understanding intended to resolve the months-long conflict with Iran. Tech security and artificial intelligence were also discussed, with leaders calling on major tech companies whose executives attended the event to ensure safe and age-appropriate experiences for minors. The summit concluded with Macron hosting Trump for a private dinner at the Palace of Versailles, where the U.S. president emphasized his readiness to resume military actions against Iran if they fail to uphold their obligations. According to the Epoch Times, U.S. President Donald Trump stated on Wednesday during the G7 summit in France that the recently reached U.S. Iran ceasefire agreement is not a final deal but rather a memorandum of understanding, (DUSOS). Trump warned that if Iran does not behave, the United States will immediately resume military actions. Furthermore, Trump strongly rejected reports suggesting that the United States would invest $300 billion in Iran, clarifying that the U.S. government will not spend a single penny. While Reuters reported that a $300 billion private fund was being set up by global companies to incentivize the final peace agreement, Trump emphasized that the United States has no such fund and is not investing. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung also clarified that the leaked draft of the MOU published by some media outlets does not reflect the actual finalized text. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.